Chapter 5.6 notes solving by factoring. Solving by factoring starts the same way that factoring always does. It just adds one step at the end. But before we get started, we need to make sure the polynomial is set to equal 0. Right now it equals -3. So you're going to bring that -3 out over by doing the inverse operation, b plus 3. So now we have a trinomial. -6 plus 3 is -3. That is set to 0. We are going to find the product and sum, like we always do, and take the outside numbers, multiply them together, and we know the sum is the middle number 2. We go to our factor chart, find all of the factors, 3. We know it's negative, so I'm going to rewrite it, but give the negative to either side. We're looking for a pair that when we add, give us a +2. And -1 plus 3 gives us +2, so we know our pair. And we replace the middle term with the first pair that we chose. Now we have 4 terms, and we can do some grouping, just like we have. X squared and 3x only share an x. X squared divided by x is x, and 3x divided by x is 3. -1 and -3. The GCF is -1. They do not share x's. When we divide them out, we have x plus 3. So far, nothing new. We are going to double check that our parentheses are the same, just like we have in the past, and they are. So we can keep moving. And I'm going to write my x minus 3, my GCFs together, and my x plus 3 one time. Now at this stage, this is where the new step comes in. Before we stopped, we're going to move further. We're going to set each parentheses, or the GCF in the parentheses, equal to 0 and solve. So we're going to take this guy, set it equal to 0. X minus 1 equals 0. And we're going to take this guy, set it equal to 0. And all we have to do is solve. This is just one equation. Opposite of -1 is +1. So our first answer is x equals +1. We have to solve for the second part. X plus 3 equals 0. Opposite of a +3 is a -3. So we're left with x equals -3. And those are our two answers when we're asked to solve. In this next example, we only have 2 terms. So we're going to pull out the GCF. The GCF of -2 and 6, if we look at our factor chart, is -2. They both share x's. The least amount of x's they share is 1x. So we're going to divide them out, just like we've done. -2x squared divided by -2 is just x. -6 divided by -2 is 3, and the x's cancel. So the new step is to set each parentheses for the GCF and the parentheses equal to 0. So in this case, we are going to set the -2x, because it's our GCF, equal to 0. And I'm going to set the parentheses x minus 3 equal to 0. And we're going to solve. This says -2 times x, opposite of times is divide. And 0 divided by -2 is 0. So that is our first answer. Secondly, x minus 3 equals 0. The opposite of -3 is +3. And we're left with x equals a +3 for 2 answers when we're asked to solve. All right, when we see each term equal to a number, we want to set it equal to 0 like we did in the first example. And the inverse of -5 plus 5, and we're going to add it to the other constant. Cancels out, gives us 0. We're going to rewrite everything, except we're going to add 19 plus 5, which gives us 24 plus 24. Now we can calculate using the product and the sum. Notice I have included +1 and +24 to give us a +24, and a -1 and a -24 to give us a +24. And I did that because we're looking for -11. When I look for my factor pairs, that one we add to give us -11, that would be -3 and 8. So I replace the middle term with our mystery numbers here. We have 4 terms. Now we can group. Pull out the GCF. On the left side is x. We divide out. We get x minus 3 is left. On the outside, I'll pull out -8 for the GCF. And what we're left with is x minus 3. Again, we double check, like always, that they match. They do, so we can keep moving. We are going to set the GCFs and the factored pair equal to 0 and solve to get our 2 answers. And when we do the inverse of -8, we get +8. And when we do the inverse of -3, we get +3, our 2 answers. Let's go ahead and try the next example. We want to set it equal to 0, like always. I'm going to bring it over. Notice this time I have an x that's squared. I have just an x. Since I'm taking -5 over to the left side, I have to just tag it on because it didn't have an x. They weren't alike. After finding the product and the sum, you would find that the 2 middle terms are -5x and +2x. When we have 5 terms, we split them so we can find the GCFs of each side. Forgot my x there. And when we divide them out, remember that's like a 1x. 2 divided by 1 is 2. We subtract the exponents. -5 divided by 1 is a -5. The x's cancel. 2 and -5 didn't have any numbers in common other than 1. 2x divided by 1 is 2x. -5 divided by 1 is -5. That's a little sloppy. That's a little better. Now they match, so we're going to set our GCFs, which is x plus 1 equal to 0, and our repeated parenthesis equal to 0, and we're going to solve. When we do so, we get x equals -1, and on the right side, this time we have a 2-step equation, and we're just going to solve it like normal algebra. Opposite of -5 is +5. Cancels. And the last step is always divide. So we have x equals 5/2, and I would leave it as a parenthesis. All right, last example. This one looks a little messy. All we're going to do is combine like terms by bringing our 2x, we'll start with, to the other side by subtracting, and I'm going to line it up with my other x term. And I'll do one step at a time here. 15 take away 2x is a +13x. And I still have to take care of this -3. Opposite of -3 is a +3. I'm going to line it up with my other constant, and I'm going to rewrite everything else. -13 plus 3 is a +10. Now we're equal to 0, and we can go ahead and find the product and sum and split the middle. And when we do that, we find that the 2 mystery numbers are 15x and -2x. When we have 4 terms, we split them for grouping, and we can go ahead and pull out the GCFs on each side. Nothing new. We go ahead and divide them out. And when I got to this step, I noticed that my signs should not have matched. And I did make a mistake because way up here, -13 plus 10 is -10. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. And now that that's fixed, -10 divided by -2 is a +5, and that's what I was looking for. Again, we always double check that the parentheses are correct. And if they're not, you likely made a mistake, just like I did with a negative. We're going to bring the GCFs together, set them equal to 0. 3x minus 2 is going to be equal to 0. Likewise, whatever we repeat in the parentheses is going to be set equal to 0. Opposite of plus 5 is negative 5. I went ahead and did the easier one first, like I always do. And this guy isn't hard, it's just a two-stepper. We're going to take the opposite of minus 2, add 2 to both sides. That's a 0. That's pretty sloppy. We're left with 3x equals 2. Last step is always divide. We're left with x equals 2/3. Again, leave it in fraction form.